your baby's close to you. There's someone out there.
What's up, Mob Crew? I'm Chris, and today's missing person case is Don. Also, today's person of interest is Olivia. Today's missing person case is Courtney.
Hello? Oh, nothing more creepier than a freaking shaft. Hello? What's up, everybody? Welcome to the stream. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am Chris with Monsters Under Our Bed. I cover murder, mystery to the paranormal, and we have a special guest on today. We got Steve from True Crime Web, who we'll introduce here just in a minute. And we're going to be talking about the Dylan Rounds case and kind of going back to the start and looking at some clues that we might have overlooked. And so, but before we do that, we always introduce missing person cases at the beginning. So, and I've got a new setup, so I apologize. I'm still kind of working some things out. So bear with me this week as I kind of try to figure out what feels right, because I've got a couple monitors and I'm trying to figure out where to have my setup. So let me get this going real quick. Okay, so we've got Randall Ray Curtis, who went, went missing in Marana, Arizona, last seen traveling on foot in Tucson along the interstate. Family was told by a girlfriend that they got separated, and when she returned where he was, his bags remained, but he was gone. Details surrounding his disappearance are unclear, and the family is looking for anyone with information to please contact the police. And so there is the number down there. He is 36 years old, 5'10", 150 pounds, brown hair, and blue eyes. So that is Randy Curtis. Randall. It says Randy Curtis down here, so maybe he goes by Randy. And then, of course, since we're talking about the Dylan Rounds case, we have to talk about Aiden Clune, who sadly went missing a month before Dylan, and this was on April 27th. It's about 50 miles south of Wells, Nevada, near Curry. And unfortunately, he pulled over to the side of the interstate, got out of his truck, and then was tracked about 10 miles into the mountains, and they lost his tracks, and he hasn't been seen since. So there's a $5,000 reward. And he was the same age as Dylan, 19 at the time when he went missing. So, and hopefully when things kind of settle down, maybe if he's if there's no progression in his case, hopefully maybe we can get out there. But it's going to take a little bit. I got to get a car and a few things going. But yeah, we would love to try to get out there and help him. So let me introduce our guest for today. How you doing, Steve?
Doing great. How are you tonight, sir?
Good, buddy. Always a pleasure to have you on.
I'm honored to be here. Glad you let me come on and talk to you.
Yes. So for those that are new to my channel, do you want to just kind of give a slight background to your?
Sure. I'm Steve. I am a retired law enforcement officer, 20 years. I was an investigator, worked everything from simple thefts and burglaries all the way up to homicide. I was specialized in crime scene processing. I was a state certified crime scene tech, and which boded me well throughout my career. And I retired and now have returned to the web sleuth community.
That's awesome. And you are been talking about how you kind of want to expand on your channel where you're going to actually go out and do some forensic stuff.
Yes, I'm actually in the process now of going through all the stuff and of looking at some of the equipment that, of course, the government used to buy for me, but now I'm gonna have to buy my own because as I've progressed with my channel and people are sending me information and I'm talking to families that have loved ones that are cold cases and things, and it's come to my attention that sometimes they're in possession of certain articles that they'd like to have tested that law enforcement won't test or has just put to the wayside. And so I'm going to assist them in whatever manner I can with what specialized skills I have, and travel around and try to do some of that for them, and hopefully have an impact and maybe clear up one or two.
That's awesome. Okay, I'm just changing the time on the speed on the chat. So I have to put at least something. I can't put 0. So hopefully that'll work for you guys. That should be good. 5 seconds. So yeah, I can't put it to 0. It won't let me put it to 0. So 5. We'll do 5. That should be good. So yeah, honored to have you on, Steve. So we since you're kind of new to the case, we did have you on last week, and we kind of started getting you talking about a little bit about the evidence, the timeline, and you kind of, the last thing that we kind of noticed was the hose, and we'll kind of get into that. I'm going to play a video and we're going to kind of talk about it because I kind of went back to the early interviews and kind of, you spotted some stuff and I spotted some stuff that I kind of overlooked the first time. So we'll jump into that. So let me put that on here. Okay, make sure I got the right one here.
That was like 7.
Okay, sure. And let me know if you can hear everything. Okay, guys.
I hear
Saturday morning,
yes.
And then he said he called grandma right back, and then she never.
That was Saturday morning.
That was Saturday morning, and so we figured he took off across the desert, walking back to his camper because that's nothing unusual for him.
How far is his camper from there?
It's 5 miles down this road. Just off, yeah.
So I just want to show what we're looking at is, as a matter of fact, this is the road. You're looking at the south. So this is the grain shed location. And what you're seeing right at towards the bottom, towards the south, this is where the gate would be. Now, apparently, Dylan and Jim would have a problem because Dylan would not lock the gate. So that's kind of like a barbed wire, and it's got a couple posts on it, and then you would just drag it, and then you would just kind of, usually in these areas there's just a kind of like a wire you put over another post, and that's it. So basically anyone can show up, take the wire off, then you drive through and then you put it up. But apparently here they had a padlock on it, but Dylan didn't like to put the padlock on. He just left it unlocked. That made Jim unhappy. So apparently there was some conflict going on there. So that could, raise some kind of motive with that there. But that's what we're looking at, is the south entrance to the grain shed.
But for a 19-year-old kid who's out here farming by himself, he's used to having to walk himself around.
Okay.
Move equipment. He's, But then later that day when search and rescue got out, we found his boots behind this.
And so this is something new. I don't think I've showed you. So this is the mound. And so obviously the top left circle is the grain shed. and then apparently these 2 circles are where the boots were found. So anything, and obviously this is before they really labeled this the crime scene. So this was kind of fresh. Obviously they took the boots, but we kind of discussed just before the start that he could have been, if he was being shot at, this is your only, everything else, there's no real cover if you're between the grain shed and that location, west of the grain shed, I guess.
Absolutely.
Dirt pile that's straight out back here, about 400 yards from where he left his grain truck. So we're starting to wonder if he was even the one that took his grain truck out there. There's some sketchy stuff because there's really deep ruts where his grain truck was, and it shouldn't have rained that hard already.
So this is something that I noticed, what she said. So she says there's some deep ruts, and I'm going to show you for those. I'm sure most of you know what ruts is, but for this terminology, I'm going to show you here in just a second. So this would be considered a rut. It's like tracks, but much deeper. So as you can see, there's oh yeah, you can't see my mouse, but yeah, it's obviously something quite deep. And then I was looking, because this is just something that I've kind of watched this interview multiple times, and then I never really kind of paid attention to that part where she says ruts. And then when I watched it this morning, I was kind of looking to see, well, where's the ruts? And sure enough, there are some towards the north, and we'll see that here in just a minute. And so I sent you this. So as you can see, this is at the north. These are the ruts that they're talking about, which is interesting. She says that Dylan's truck wouldn't have made those kind of, deep tracks. And what's your thoughts on that, Steve?
Well, if he was coming through the south gate, and why would the ruts be there and especially even after the rain, if he was trying to beat the rain? So either one or two things happened. Either he went and came around on the north side so he wouldn't have to stop for the gate, or he made it through the gate on the south side. And sometimes once the soil was saturated for those ruts to occur with the truck, then the truck had to leave the area and for some reason after the rain, if it's caused by that the 10-wheeler, as she identifies that truck.
Yes. The Shack Lady, today is my son's birthday and Dylan's. My son is deep in the woods in Alaska hiking, making me nervous with all the bears out there. Well, happy birthday to your son, and of course, happy birthday to Dylan Rounds. Hopefully, we can get he gets justice.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that was something I kind of noticed, was these
basically just a trailer.
A camp trailer, you'll see the pivot, his pickup, there's all kinds of equipment. Yeah, you can't, yeah, it's all of his stuff's out there. Straight through, see that dirt pile?
Okay, yeah.
His boots were just tossed out right behind that.
Okay, so here is us at, this is something that you were wondering about. So this footage right here is from when we went out the second time. And this is when the FBI, I think they showed up like a day or two before we showed up. So they'd only been out there maybe a day or two. Because I remember getting a call from the local saying, oh, well, just, by the way, when you come out here, just know that the FBI are out here. We're like, oh, okay. Thank you for letting us know. So what you're seeing here is just the south entrance where obviously the gate would be. And I'm going to zoom in, and I was telling Steve that we saw them doing a grid search pattern, and they were like shoulder to shoulder, and they are east of the grain shed. And we'll kind of show you guys that here in just a minute. But we're going to zoom in, and you're going to barely be able to see the heads, but so you'll see about 3 or 4 heads right in the middle of the screen. You can barely see them, and we'll take another look at this further later on. But and you'll kind of see there's like 5 of them and then they're going to kind of disappear because they're obviously walking away from us. And then there's the mound. So you can see it's pretty much flat. And the only thing west of that grain shed is that dirt pile. So
the hill, and that's the last place his phone was.
So you were telling me, and so we'll pause it here, and let's move this and add this. And so they were basically right on this area here doing a grid search pattern. So what do you think that was, Steve? We were kind of talking about that.
Well, it's strange that, if you're doing a grid search out there for any type of evidence, I mean, there's something that has indicated either a disturbance out there, K9s alerted, or, metal detectors, but they're doing something, they discovered something. And even if they're shoulder to shoulder, are they looking for spent brass, or, are they doing ground prods with rods to see if there's any disturbed earth? I mean, there's a lot of different things that they could be doing. Unfortunately, you're so far away and you couldn't get the drone over them. Yes, if they're there, but it makes you wonder, that far away from the shed directly in front of it, what happened? Well,
yes.
What could have been going on in that area to make them interested in doing a grid search in that specific area?
Yeah, so they weren't over here. They weren't over here. They were literally almost shoulder to shoulder, I would say. I mean, and we'll go back, but they were somewhere about right here. And you really can't tell, but it's kind of slightly a hill right here. It's kind of higher right here where my mouse is. It's a little bit higher level. And yes, they were kind of walking away from us, and there was at least about 8 or 9 of them, just almost shoulder to shoulder, clearly doing some kind of grid search. So
interesting.
Yeah. And of course, we spoke to the FBI because there was a guy pulling up just after we pulled up. There was an FBI pulling up, and Nick spoke to him for just a brief second. We just said, "Hey, we're here to help search, and we obviously you guys are here, so we know we can't fly our drone over you guys, so we're gonna go southeast." And is that okay? And he said, "Yeah, that's fine as long as you're not flying over us." And so that was the second time we went out there. So let me go back to
pinged.
Yeah.
Right. That after.
Right past that shop by the railroad tracks, there's a hill you drop down in.
Shop in the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
You can see the road kind of goes like that, and right where it makes the bend, that's
What time it was pinged at?
1541, but it gives a 15.4 mile radius.
And this is something I caught. Now it's not big, but I noticed what she just said there was 1541, which obviously us civilians, we're used to saying 3:30, 4:30, 5:30, p.m. Not military time, not 1541, which it equate to 3:41. Now I worked at the post office, so it is kind of normal to me because post office, law enforcement. So clearly her being told 1541 would have been from law enforcement because you guys use military time, correct?
That you're absolutely correct. Yes, sir.
So I thought that was interesting that she said 1541 and not 341 because that was relayed to her via someone that was probably law enforcement, 1541. So that was something I kind of caught. It's normal for me because I worked at the post office and we dealt with military time as well. But then that kind of hit me. I'm like, that's interesting that she said 1541.
Yes, it is.
Oh, gosh. And I just started it over. Oops.
It's out in the middle of nowhere, so town owns that, was doing some groundwork for him, and it's still out there.
Okay.
On the map, so if you draw that circle from the cell phone tower, this is part right on the edge of it, and the rest of the circle Dylan would have no reason, to be at. It's out in the middle of nowhere, so town
I had
owns
issue
was
with
doing
that
some
part
groundwork
there.
for him.
Okay.
Because she's assuming that Dylan is the one that had the phone at that point. And we're talking about 8 hours after his last communications, and it may be in fact that he did have the phone, but if his phone pinged and someone else had it, or it was on his person, and it pinged for whatever reason, incoming call or whatever, or someone that was trying to use it to send, like in other cases, sometimes people will try to stage certain text messages and things like that off of victims' phones. But and so we don't know if it's within a 15-mile circle. She's assuming that this is the only location that would have been from. So as law enforcement, they wouldn't put a lot of weight in that. They'd be checking everywhere in addition to that.
Gotcha. Interesting. Okay. Just checking the chat. I still agree. The 15-mile radius needs to be rechecked in a grid fashion. Yeah. Okay.
And it's still out there. So
moved at all? I mean, there's no way to know, huh?
Yeah, there's no way to know. And when the rain came in so hard, after, because so I talked to a lady in Salt Lake, called me, Dana, her husband, and her come out caving all the time. And so she got me the timeline on the rain. She just wanted to give me all the information of everything she's seen out here. And she said it started raining between 5:30 and 6 o'clock in the morning, and it wasn't as substantial as a downpour. And then it got really windy, tapered off, and then really started raining hard late in the afternoon and all day Sunday. So the tracks that are made by Dylan's truck, if he was taking it out at 7:30 when he called his grandmother in a panic to get his truck in, or she called him and he said he couldn't talk because she was getting the truck in. Yeah. There's no way that 10-wheeler could have left tracks this deep in the mud. Yeah.
Okay, so what just happened right there is like, woo, she's nervous. So, and like I said, when you start rewatching interviews and you start catching new stuff, and I'm like, that kind of like just went over I wouldn't say went over my head, but I'm going to replay that because what she says is actually very interesting, but unfortunately she uses the wrong vocabulary when describing who's driving what. So I'm going to replay that because it's actually very interesting.
That are made by Dylan's truck. If he was taking it out at 7:30 when he called his grandmother in a panic to get his truck in, or she called him and he said he couldn't talk because she was getting the truck in.
See, right there, she said she couldn't call because she's getting the truck in. Clearly, she's nervous. She meant to say Dylan can get his truck in. So that I think that's very telling. So to me, from rewatching this, it tells me that it is more likely that he was at the grain shed. And I kind of talked about this with you. The storm already started at apparently 5:30 to 6 a.m. His phone call with his grandmother was at 6:51. Let me see if I can do this. Boop, boop. Okay, so here we're looking at this. The storm would come in usually. Let's see if I can do this. Good. It would come in from the northwest. Usually, that I noticed, the storms would come to the east, kind of southeast. So the storm would have been over here and then started coming. And it sounds like just because he had such a short conversation with the grandmother, oops, I didn't mean to zoom in on that. Does that mean that it was more likely he was actually at the grain truck? Because why would it be a short conversation unless, he was kind of there and like, hey, grandma, I got to go. Because if he's driving there or even walking there, then why does he need to quickly hang up with grandma if he's still got another 5-10 minutes to go? So I think if you really listen to that interview and what she says right there, it sounds like he was kind of there or close to it. What do you think, Steve?
No, I agree. Either he was, for whatever reason, he made
There's
that
no
call.
Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I agree with you. Something, when he made that phone call, and I don't know why he would make a phone call so close to the point, like us, of having to change and do something else. I mean,
well, she called him.
Oh, okay. So he answered the phone.
Yep.
Okay. Well, by chance, then, of course, yeah, it sounds like he had to interrupt, either unlock the gate or get something out of the shed so he could get his truck back in case there was something that was already in the barn he couldn't get. So he was going to have to do something before the heavy rains hit.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I'm going to play that one more time for you guys because, like I said, and this also incorporates what she was talking about, the ruts as well. She incorporates this. I'm still trying to figure this out because, like I said, obviously she's nervous and she's saying she, but she really means Dylan and kind of messes up here. But obviously she's nervous and distraught.
When he called his grandmother in a panic to get his truck in, or she called him and he said he couldn't talk because she was getting the truck in.
Yeah.
So that's obviously, she meant to say Dylan's trying to get his truck in. But this, what she says right here is very interesting as well.
There's no way that truck, that 10-wheeler, could have left tracks this deep in the mud.
Yeah.
So what she's talking about right there is what we were showing you guys. Let me pull it up here. Just real quick. I'm getting better at this. There we go. So what she's talking about, because I was looking at it, I'm like, okay, what's she talking about? And the only ruts that I see from all the aerial footage is right north. So I think you agree as well, Steve, that
Absolutely.
and so she says a 10-wheeler. So I'm going to switch back over and I'll show you guys what 10-wheeler she was talking about.
Panic to get his truck in, or she called him and he said he couldn't talk because she was getting the truck in.
Yeah.
There's no way that truck, that 10-wheeler, could have left tracks this deep in the mud.
Yeah.
There's no way.
So this is the grain. And I'm going to show you. Thank you, Jennifer, for the super sticker. So that is what a 10-wheeler is. Do you want to describe what that is? What we're looking at? You're a farmer, right?
Yeah, it just has a dual tandems in the back, which is a total of 8 tires, and then you got the 2 steering tires up front. And even here in Georgia, 2 + 8 is 10. And so,
yeah. So it's got obviously the 8 tires on the back, and then 2 tires on the front, and that is your basic grain truck here that holds the grain. Thank you, Jennifer, so much for your super sticker. You're awesome. And we got Tom in the house. Hello, Mob Crew. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Same to you, buddy. Thank you, Tom, so much for everything you do, buddy. Thank you guys all so much for the support. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Michelle, for the $1.49 super sticker. You're awesome. So you guys are amazing. Okay, so let's keep it going here. And so there's just another look at the grain truck. And then if you just look, it's kind of small, but where it says Dylan's grain, right above grain is where those ruts are. Now she says that not even the 10-wheeler could make those ruts, which is very interesting. I would think it could, but
well, especially if the ground's saturated. I mean,
yes.
Of course, it'd have to be saturated, and that would have to be indicative that the storm had been ongoing for a certain amount of time. Why would it be moved in the rain? Because Dylan wouldn't have moved it in the rain.
Yeah. Jamie Young says, I feel like Candace changed a lot of her stuff yesterday. Is it from stress, or is it just she's stressed? Yeah, I think, yeah, for sure. And then of course the birthday coming up. Oh, I couldn't imagine, being a mother, and then you got your boy's birthday coming up. Absolutely terrible.
That's normal when you're talking to victims that early on, whenever they're discussing what happened, and especially within a certain time span, it'll change over time. And
does it? Yeah. So that's just nervous. That's just
normal.
Yeah.
And everybody unjustly sometimes holds the family that, well, you're changing your story. Well, it's just that as when they're first hit with and everything's going on, we got a missing child or we have a death in the family. Everybody's been there where your mind just spins and you lose track of time, and that happens all the time.
Yeah, that's great insight. Thank you, and thank you so much, Kristen, behind the crime door. Thank you for all you do, Chris. What a great channel you have. Love. thank you so much, Kristen. You're amazing. And hopefully we're going to have some guests on. Like I said, I just got my studio set up, so it's going to benefit me down the road with having guests on, because that's usually something, in my early lives, I really didn't have guests on that much, but I'm going to try to tailor that with this new studio I kind of got. So thank you so much for the $9.99. I'm just looking at the comments. Then we're going to go, Chris, so which is it? Dylan called Grandma? Grandma called Dylan. Grandma called Dylan, 6:51. She was just checking in on him, and it's normal. And clearly he was, because it wouldn't make sense for him to call her and then just tell her, "Oh, hey, Grandma, I'm turning into grain shit. Gotta go." So clearly it's Grandma calling Dylan to check on him, and obviously he's up early, because some people are like, "Well, it's kind of weird. It's so early, 6:51 a.m." But you got to remember, he's a farmer, and even though he's 19, he's really like a 30-year-old. He's, he's just ahead of his ages. Okay. One more. Tom, I'm having a feeling they are close to ending this case. Could be wrong. I think they're close to pinning something down. Me and Steve were kind of talking about that. He feels like something's going to happen soon. So I agree. And thank you so much, Tom, for the $10. Okay. All right. Let's press on here. And then there's just me zooming in on that again, just because she mentioned those ruts. And like I said, I thought that was interesting. Hadn't seen those before. And for her to point
so we
that
don't
out.
even know if he's the one who actually took the truck. And trust me, he would not get sidetracked and not protect his seed. This kid has been working out here developing this ground since he was 16. It is his pride and joy. He's not going to get seed ruined. I mean,
The truck not make it into the shed?
yeah, it made it in. We just don't know if he's the one who took it.
Gotcha.
And his pickup was locked, which is super abnormal. He never locks his pickup. Never. He is super abnormal.
So yeah, this part was kind of hard to hear, and I kind of overlooked it. I think I do remember hearing it, but it's because the way you can't really hear what she says, but she says it's really abnormal for him to lock the door. And Dylan, you got to realize that he's just and she says it here in just a minute. He's a creature of habit. He has routines, so he wouldn't leave. He wouldn't lock the door. He doesn't like to have the south gate locked. He only wears one pair of boots. He just has that same routine, almost like an OCD. He's got those things. And so I'm going to replay this one more time because I think that's huge.
He never locks his pickup. Never. He is.
So those ruts were 4 low was attempted, Bungee Cord says. That would be interesting. That'd be very interesting. Because the 4 low, the transmission when they put it in was messed up somehow. And so even though you switch to 4 low, all 4 tires don't rotate. It just drives like you were just had it in drive. Interesting.
He's either got a dark sweatshirt on, even if it's 80 degrees, or he has a quilted flannel on, even if it's 80 degrees. Wranglers, it won't change. You will not find him in anything else. So, and they keep saying, well, could he go off with friends? Could he this? No. Not this kid.
Yeah.
He's out here. This is his baby. So, yeah, we're just kind of at a loss. So here's where it got fishy. So, Dylan, last time I talked to him was Thursday. Last time his dad talked to him was Thursday.
So this is kind of the timeline here. And then of course, we're going to get to the hose and everything here in a bit, that we kind of been talking about. It's kind of coming up towards the end here.
It's nothing to go 3 or 4 days without hearing from Dylan when he's planting. But usually the grandma will hear from him, or I'll hear from him, or his dad will, and somebody will. So he may not talk to everybody, but daily he talks to somebody. So Saturday when Karen didn't hear back from him after putting the truck in, she got a hold of Dawn.
Now, Karen would be, I'm assuming, grandma.
Sunday morning and said, go check Dylan, blah, blah. They said, Don went and checked. He said the campers, his pickup's locked. We can't tell if his guns are in there. He hasn't been here. So then he went and got Jim, and they went and looked again. So
yes, that's what was messed up was the transfer case. Thank you, Danger Dave. That's why the 4 low. I'm not a mechanic or a vehicle person, so I don't know much about vehicles. I've always been a tech guy, so. But yes, that's what they mentioned. Transfer case. Thank you, Danger Dave.
But for a 19-year-old kid who's out here farming by himself, he's used to having to walk himself around.
Okay.
Move equipment. But then later that day when search and rescue got out, we found his boots behind this dirt pile that's straight out back here, about 400 yards from where he left his grain truck.
Thank you so much, Bungee Cord. So the vehicle he had was a 2015 F-150.
So we're starting to wonder if he was even the one that took his grain truck out there. There's some sketchy stuff because there's really deep ruts where his grain truck was, and it shouldn't have rained that hard already.
Yeah.
Because it rained in.
Okay, and there's just talking about the ruts, and I was just kind of, oh, did this skip? Oh, I accidentally clicked something. Oops, I'm sorry, guys.
So she didn't alert me or Justin, his dad. So then Monday comes around, and I get a phone call from JD, Dylan's best friend, that says, have you talked to Karen? They're looking for Dylan. And I said, no, I have heard nothing about this. So from Saturday night till we got out here Monday, Don and Jim had been supposedly looking for Dylan. And I know the way Karen is, and I know her mind's frazzled now. If they would have told her in her mind, or to her, don't worry about it, he'll be okay. It's Dylan. He's been out here for 3. You just kind of roll with it. But yeah, so
that's interesting. I would like to know where Jim, where he went to go look. If he actually did go to look. Would he have tried to go like in the opposite? If he was involved, he is obviously a suspect.
Well, and most certainly, law enforcement, if he has phones and stuff, there'll be that during what he reported that he had done, when they pull all the data from cell towers, they'll be able to see exactly what he did. Did he actually go look for him, or is he just telling her he went looking for her? And
interesting.
And so that may be a telltale sign into the investigation of that. He told her one thing, but he said it at the trailer and watched TV. We don't know.
Yeah.
But that's something that law enforcement would know if his phone's on and active.
Very interesting. Great. Okay. All right, just kind of comments.
Is there a chance that Don and Jim were at that shop when Dylan was taking the grain truck over there? And then from there, something happened? Because that's why his boots would be over there?
that's kind of the, yeah.
That theory.
So, okay. So she kind of thinks that they could have been there, at least Jim. Like I said, we haven't really heard much about Don. He's brought up, obviously, because he's, part of this since he worked with Dylan. And then there was obviously a disagreement. They were fixing a washer and they had an argument. And then Dylan fired Don. But from what I understand, Don, he didn't really care. He had money. He wanted to go fishing. He thought it was just, gave him an excuse to go out and go fishing. So from what I understand, from what I've heard, which is very little, but he seemed like a decent guy. But, we'd never know. So here's a picture of the inside of the truck, and we'll look at it some more. So now we're going to kind of get closer to the truck and, was it driven? So let's play this. They're going to kind of go around the truck here. But that's interesting. You got 4 low here. Kind of looking at the gears here. 4H, and it's kind of hard to see. Anyone want to, I guess this would be So these are just the gears. So 2, and then there's the 2.4H. I'll have to look that up some more. The mom getting quiet and backing out tells me law enforcement shut her down, or they told her that they are close but didn't need all these outside sources that she got involved from the start. Quite possible. Yeah. Yeah, she kind of got into it with, obviously, because, she was having trouble in the beginning. You're on the border, so you're dealing with 2 different counties. That was kind of the problem for. So, you got Box Elder, Utah. You got Elko, Nevada. In the beginning, apparently Box Elder wasn't really cooperating, and Nevada was, but really this happened in Lucin, so it should be Box Elder's case, because that's Utah. And then, second to third week is when things got going. June 15th, I think, is when they kind of labeled it a homicide. And then FBI showed up at the end of week 3. Thank you so much, Tom, for the $10. You're awesome. Thank you, buddy. Okay. So there's no audio to this, so if there's anything you want to... so now we're going over around the truck here. And it does look like it had been power washed, because you can see where there's certain streaks. Because when you sit there with a power washer, and you're heavy on one area, you can kind of see the aftermath. There's Mike with the. Okay, so 2 high, 4 auto, 4 high, 4 low. Thanks, Mike. So those are the gears. Now, people always mention this. Obviously, this damage to the front. I would think that would be one of the first things they said was like, "Hey, there's damage to the front of this truck." So I'm assuming this has happened before, Dylan went missing, or that would be probably the first thing they're would be looking at. Now, which would be crazy though, is because we were kind of talking about the concept of, how would boots come off a person or shoes, and one way would be being hit by a vehicle. That does happen. It would be kind of bad luck if they did have some kind of front end damage, but he still did get hit by his own truck and his boots went flying, but they didn't really kind of pay attention. That's a long shot, but that's a theory to explain the boots going flying off. So here they're looking.
I saw a thing earlier today where a guy was talking about that he has property there, and that the roads have some type of coating, and that when that coating is kicked off of the tires, it creates that stuff almost like concrete up in the fender wells.
Oh.
And he said after he went home, it took him about 2 hours whenever he leaves that area to clean out his wheel wells. And so it's not like it's just loose dirt.
Yes, and that's what it looks like. Yeah.
They said they treat the roads with something to make sure that they tighten up, or that they remain solid. But I found that interesting. I hadn't ever seen that before.
Yeah,
or heard of that before.
And you're going to notice the front wheel wells are really caked. Okay, this is interesting because I haven't really shown people this. This is actually inside the truck. Now, apparently, this is just typical Dylan. I was pretty clean, but there was a time where I'd throw stuff in my passenger seat. I think a lot of kids that age, but we got cottage cheese, chips, and some kind of maybe energy drink there. Then we got looks like a charger cord. Everything else kind of looks normal. And then there's just kind of a still of the floor of the passenger side here.
And debris in the front passenger seat that is indicative that there wasn't a passenger at the time it was last driven.
Mm-hmm. should switch over here. Be another picture. I didn't realize I left it up there. So oh, it's because I'm not playing it. That would help. And then this was on the seat, but there wasn't really anything suspicious on the seat, really. Just another empty bottle. Some paperwork. I'm still trying to look at the paperwork. I'm going to get back on
It's
that.
a calendar from an insurance company. I clipped it, rotated it, and you can see up there it says calendar in the side edge, and it's issued by some type of insurance company. But with the seat being occupied by all that debris, it's indicative that more than likely there wasn't a passenger in it.
Yes, that's a great. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Tom. The dirt around there all looks the same. Not sure if dirt analysis would solve this. I guess that would be Steve. What do you think on that?
Well, it depends if it was certain creeks and certain minerals. I don't know what the water runoff and what mountainous areas and how is it distributed throughout the region. But you also, you can go that whenever we process certain vehicles, that if they've gone through off-roading and they hit certain vegetation, that they'll collect certain seeds and pods and leaves and debris in certain areas of the truck where you can test that and see possibly what type of habitat or that the vehicle went through, either on the roads or off roads. And but there's all different ways of collecting stuff, and I know that's been done across country. That you can just about tell that if you process a vehicle that's found in one region of the United States, you can tell where it came from by processing some of the vegetation and even the bugs that are found, because there are certain regionals about certain insects.
Yeah. And what's interesting is we actually drove up a road because obviously we're searching, and I'll show you guys real quick, and then we're going to get to the hose here in just a minute. We're coming up on it here. I wanted to show you guys something because obviously we've been out there 4 times, trying everything that we can to help locate Dylan without getting in the way, of course. So here's Highway 30. Now, this is just kind of in regards to Tom's question. But when we drove up here, up the north, because we wanted to check out, you got what's called Devil's Playground over here. And like I said, the FBI was up here in Park Valley. So clearly there's something, and that's in regards to Dylan Round's case. So clearly there was something that kind of got their attention, And anyway, long story short, when we were driving up some of these roads, there was this blue quart that because up here in the they were mining like blue quart, and they were actually I'm sure they were using it for many things, but one of the things they were actually using it for was actually to smooth out the road. And so that car that we rented actually still had some of that blue quart, like in minerals in it, like in the tread and stuff. So just to kind of go on, what you're talking about, which is interesting. So let me get back. So now we're going to kind of move forward. So there's like 4 main things really with this truck. So obviously the seat was pulled forward. So that would imply either someone, if it was being driven, someone short, or now keep in mind, this is a 4-door. So the other thing would be where they pulled the seat forward looking for something. But this is a 4-door. It's not like a pickup where, you don't have the seats in the back. And yes, you would pull the seat forward to, my buddy that had the 2-seater, he just, would have his information and stuff, or, just right behind him. Thank you, Geneva. Great info. Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much, Geneva. Okay. All right, we got a plan, right? Okay. Tom says that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tom. You're awesome. Okay, this is going slow. I have it playing. Okay, so and then we got the gear was set to 4 low. Dylan's 4-wheel drive did not work, but it still drove. It would still drive, but the 4-wheel would not engage. And yes, it was the transfer case that was messed up. And there's what it looked like. And so obviously you got the 4 low, and then we had somebody explain that, you had the 4 high, 4 auto, and the 2 high. So thank you for that, for sharing that. And thank you, Tom. And then, oops. Oh, I knew I was going to do that. And then the big one here is no tire tracks to or from the farm that looked like it came from Dylan's truck. So was it driven over the weekend where it rained a lot on Saturday and Sunday when he went missing? We'll look a little bit more into that here in a minute. And this is just kind of a close-up. And I'll pull up the picture that at the end of the video, Steve, that you wanted to talk about, the footprint that you noticed. So we'll talk about that at the end there. And then the other one was obviously the power wash. Now, one of the things is this Kurt guy said that Dylan did power wash his truck recently because there was like some oil in the back of the truck, and so he power washed it. And he's terrible about cleaning out the wheel wells. So that's a possibility. We don't know if that's truth or not, but that's what Kurt says. And here is just another video. And now we're going to kind of move to the hose here. But yeah, you're right. It does. It looks like cement that gets kicked up on there. I bet you could probably be hard, even if you did try to power wash it. Like you said, you'd almost have to get something to knock it out.
He was adamant. It took him several hours. He said when he got home, it takes him that long to clean up his vehicle due to whatever they treat them roads with.
Yeah, I just want to go back to this. The front versus the right is a lot cleaner. If you notice, this is the rear, completely different from the front. But that would make sense because it's front wheel drive. Obviously, if you're not using your 4-wheel drive, it's front wheel. Would that just cause more to kick up in the front?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, they all got to turn.
Unless you're stuck, then wouldn't it kick because your wheels are spinning? If you're stuck, you got your front wheels spinning, so you're going to kick up a whole lot more in your front.
That makes sense.
And then your back. What if that rut was the truck stuck where that rut was, and he's just sitting there spinning the tires, kicking all that stuff up there, and they're like, oh shit, well, I'm going to put it to 4 low, and they're still just kicking up all that shit, and that's what you got the rut from.
Well, I would think that the back tires would be what would be spinning if the 4-wheel didn't work, because generally most vehicles run off the back wheel.
Yeah.
Unless you're in 4. And if 4 didn't work, then the other.
It's real.
Yes.
Okay, so
I would think. Yes.
Okay, so it's a real. Okay, all right. Just thinking, It's kind of interesting that there's so much kicked up in the front, though. Okay, so it is real. Okay.
Well, that doesn't mean he didn't run off somewhere into a ditch or something, and got into a different type of soil and backed out. I mean, that's possible.
Okay, so it is a back tire. Okay. All right, my last vehicle is front wheel, so it's like, but it is interesting though that the front is way more caked than the back. Maybe they did try to power wash like the back and they just didn't want to do the front. I don't know. Okay, so now onto the garden hose. So, okay. All right. Yeah, we'll finish this video and then I'll switch over to my other thing. That way I can zoom in on what you were pointing
Sure.
out. So we'll talk about the hose, which we've
Absolutely.
been kind of building up because I think this is interesting. So I've got the arrow pointed at the hose, and we'll play this because you pointed this out at the end of the last stream, which I thought was very interesting. And to risk driving over a hose when you've got to drive at least like 70 miles. Now, this hose, the way it's wrapped is it's wrapped under the truck, but it's around the front tire, which means clearly that where my arrow is, that left front tire would have driven over it. I mean, that would make no sense to pull out a hose, wrap it around the front tire and under the carriage, right?
You're correct.
So, and in the beginning, I always thought that this, and we'll talk about what's in the back of his truck here as well. Tom, I own the newer version of the same truck. Definitely Railroad Tribe. Okay, thanks, Tom, so much. Yeah, definitely Railroad. Okay, interesting. Thank you so much, Tom. You're awesome, buddy. But this hose thing is interesting because, like I said, would you risk driving over a hose? And it is a typical garden hose. I kind of, zoomed in on it, because obviously they have tougher hoses, but that looks like your just generic, $10, $5 hose that could easily get ruined. And you've got to drive to Windover or east, which is, I don't know, would be closer. I think Windover, but and then here's the inside look of the trailer. You pointed something out here, which I thought was very interesting, and that's the bread. How the bread was kind of mashed. And let's, why don't we have this up? Let's do this. Because you pointed this out, and I want to make sure we don't miss it. So you notice that the bread was quite mashed right there, almost like someone was kneeling up on this. Is that what you were talking about?
Well, you got the screen off the window there in the right-hand corner, and then you got that mashed bread. I don't know what would the purpose be for that window to be like that. Is it something? I mean, I don't know. The family may know that issue, and it may be something that was that had happened prior to. But I just found it interesting that that bread would be mashed that manner, that close in proximity to a screen off of a window. That, until you, as an investigator, if you was there and you was responding to a call and you walked in and you saw that, you'd ask, okay, how did that happen? Did somebody come through that window, crush that bread, or did some, what was the purpose of that happening? And is that window even accessible from the outside? That if the screen's out, why would it be out, and could you get through that window? And you would go out and look on outside walls and see, but that'd just be things that as law enforcement, they would look at that, and it may be a simple answer, but that's just something they would question.
Yep. So Mike Hanna says the tank in the back looks like a fuel tank. You're correct. It is. It's a electric auxiliary fuel tank. And I've got a picture of one that's just like the one he's got in the back. But yes, you are correct. I don't think you can hook a garden hose up to it. It's got a different kind of hose. And we'll look at that towards the end. But yes, you're right, Mike. Thank you for sharing that, buddy. Okay, so let's switch back to the video. We're almost. And then I noticed, and you kind of noticed, the cupboards are open. So it does definitely look like it's been kind of ransacked. It's tough to tell because it's a teen. And from what we understand, this is kind of how Dylan is a typical teenager, But it does look like it.
Yeah, we don't know how many people was in there that was looking for Dylan or looking for clues that could have opened all different types of doors. I mean, there's just so much, that we don't know yet.
Sure. The guy that supposedly took these pictures said that it was that day that they, even when they walked around the truck, They walked in, took some pictures. So apparently, from what it sounded like the guy said, it sounded like he just kind of came in the trailer. Who knows? Maybe the parents were in there first and kind of was looking for the keys. They did say they were looking for the keys and I think the gun or something. So they could have easily, fortunately, contaminated, the scene. But yes, that's funny. I love. Yeah, Jennifer says he wouldn't leave perishables out. In my honest opinion, I agree, and it's funny. I always because I worked in the dairy department. That was my first job. I was like the milkman, and so we learned the word perishables. Because we always have to make sure nothing was left out because a lot of people will take something from the dairy department, leave it on the shelf like next to the cereal, and so I always had to. But anyway, yes, I agree. The eggs, milk, anything that'll expire really fast without being in the refrigerator is interesting. Yes, it was Dylan's coach that took the pick. Yes, thank you, Chef Later. Yeah, so apparently so obviously the friends and family came out to help look for Dylan, and they came in and took these pictures.
Grain truck, his seed truck, so that it didn't get rained on.
Okay, so that is that. So let's look at what you have been kind of pointing out. Okay. Should we start with the back of the truck and then we'll move to the hose?
Sure, whichever way you want to do it.
Okay. Looking for the picture. This is probably the best one here. So you're talking about right about here, right?
Yes, sir.
Yep. So if you just want to just tell me,
When I was looking at this picture, you can see that you can see what looks like disturbed earth, and you see what is a footprint there. Owning trailers and most of my life, from boat trailers to just utility trailers, some of the jacks on a trailer, they have foot plates on them. And I saw that foot plate, and a foot plate generally either 4x6 or 6x8 inch foot plate, where you have that compressed earth that's sitting there, that's straight in line with the trailer hitch receiver. Of course, inside the receiver is extremely dark. It doesn't look like there's any dust or inside that box that's just under the tag, and it's extremely dark on the inside. It doesn't look like there's a lot of dirt input and fill in there. And so I was wondering, was there a trailer at some point that was hooked to this truck that had maybe a ball lock on it? And one of the ways you secure trailers is that you lock the ball lock. But there's some owners that receiver bar that goes into the receiver there, that they'll just put a regular pin, linch pin in it and lock it. And I've worked cases where people just went up simply to a vehicle that had one of those linch pins, pull the pin, jack the trailer up, pull the pin, and roll the trailer away and steal them. And I don't know if that's the case here or not, but it most certainly doesn't look like, with that foot plate, if that was a trailer that was behind here, where is the trailer? Maybe the family knows. Maybe it was moved prior to this picture being taken. I just don't know. But I do find it odd that straight in line with that trailer hitch is what appears to be a trailer foot plate.
Interesting. Yeah, I completely. I've always, when I see this picture, I'm looking at the the no tracks thing, which and where this is parked. Let me just kind of give you guys an overview. Of course, this is from 2019, but kind of get an idea here. I think which way we're looking at, so it would be something like that. Whoa, a little too much. So you've got the pond here. Then you'd have everything kind of, your trailers and everything here, if I'm correct. And anyway, apparently this part is kind of somewhere in here. Obviously, this is 2000, what is this? Yeah, 2018. So this area, though, is kind of like a hill where he'd park his truck on. So that's kind of interesting that they shared that. So this picture here, it's kind of got a slightly higher elevation than, you know, the surrounding area. So, so yeah, what's before we'll move to the hose here in just a second. So what we're looking at back here. Now this picture is clearly taken after they've been there for a bit because the window is clearly broken out. Notice this window has the, you know, the tint, which the back window would have, but you can literally see into the truck. You can also kind of see where it kind of broke off, like didn't break off completely. You can still see part of the, so it kind of broke, you know, looks like the rest broke out. So, but yeah, what's in the back of the truck is, yeah, it's electrical fuel pump. And that is basically something like this right here. And this is so he can drive, put fuel in this, and then obviously go and fuel up his equipment, correct?
Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
the only ones we were on was old manual pumps. I've never had an electric one, but then again, I came along before the internet.
Yeah. So, just checking the chat here. Okay. Yeah. Back here. And so yeah, now moving on to the hose. So now this line that you're seeing running down, this is the fuel line hose, which run. At first I thought that was the electrical cord, but this is actually some kind of fuel line. This is not to be confused with the garden hose. It's a little bit thinner than the garden hose. Slightly looks different too. You can clearly tell the regular hose to the fuel line hose. So it looks like I'm assuming we're going to figure this out, but it looks like they came out later and hooked it up. Maybe they were emptying it out, the fuel, for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know if they, you know, and removed the tank or whatever, because in some of the other pictures you show, you don't even
There's
see
no
the
line.
tank in the back. Yeah, you just don't see the tank in the back of the truck. I don't know which pictures came first, like you said earlier, the chicken or egg. Which one's first? I don't know.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm going to do. Okay, I'm just looking at the chat here. But yeah, so let's just assume this was after. And so, because I think everybody was kind of intrigued by this, that the hose, you worked on a farm.
Yes.
And how the hose is set up, as you can see, I've got it kind of outlined. And the hose obviously wraps around the front of the left tire, comes around the carriage, and comes out. And one of the lines of the hose would actually, I would assume, go into the well, because that's where you've got to get your water. And then that plugs into the pressure washer. The other end would go into the pressure washer.
Yes.
And so you've got your line for water. You got your other end hooked up to the pressure washer, which is obviously somewhere to the left. And but yeah, you said it would be quite.
Yeah, I don't know where he normally parks his truck, but regardless of where he parks his truck, for ease of use of the hose, it wouldn't be a habit that you park over the top of it, on it, pass it. I learned at a young age you didn't tear up our water hoses, because I live on farm. My daddy wouldn't let me do that. I did it once, and I learned from then on. But that did just strike me as odd that he was careless to do that on something in a place that water is critical. But it is indicative that for some reason, whoever was in the vehicle, everything from what Mama stated, that he never locked his truck. They found it locked, to that we don't know where it's parked, but it's parked past these hoses. It is something that has to be answered. Just don't know why.
Yes. So I think it's a good possibility because I'm back and forth. I've been back and forth. At first, I thought this was a setup, but then this hose thing, if this is before they dumped out the fuel, it's a possibility. It was driven. The fact that the truck is at the property tells me that one person is responsible. Otherwise, the truck would have been burnt to the ground. Possible. Yeah.
And I think the truck's going to be very telling on evidence that if it is occupied by someone, and I know mother got in it or someone got in it and transported it back to the family residences. And but that wouldn't destroy all the evidence that's in there. Like I said, there's a lot of processing that can occur from fibers to hair to touch DNA. There's a lot of surfaces that when you go operate a vehicle that is touched that you don't even really realize.
Yeah. So let's see. What was I going to say? So yeah, we got the hose here. Possibly left in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, if there was more than one person. Yeah. So obviously, get over to James Brenner here in just a second, who is the suspect. And you were telling me, we're talking before the show, that for them to label him a suspect is pretty big. And I obviously, it didn't even hit me. And it's like, gosh, you're right. You know, they use persons of interest at the most, you know, when they're labeling people, and they barely do that. Like, think of Brian Laundrie, the Guy Petito case. I mean, they just had him as a person of interest, and obviously it wasn't a suspect until it was all over. And
yes. But yeah, that's what law enforcement has used on him, on Brenner, is strong language, and you know, and he's in jail, and the FBI has obtained that warrant on the possession. And so the rush is, if he's their suspect, then the rush for a lot of the lab reports isn't at the same rating that it would be if they didn't have someone that a convicted felon in possession of a firearm. So I'm hoping that within the next couple 3 weeks that some of the lab reports from the searches that you saw will start filtering back in. And at the next upcoming court dates, we'll probably be hearing a lot of critical information.
Ooh, interesting. Yes. Can somebody tell me? I have so many notes. I just moved into my new room, so I don't have everything out like I usually do. But I had his court date. I want to say it's like October 12th. Is anyone in the chat know when Brenner's next hearing is? They can remind me. I want to say October 12th. I told you August 12th, but I'm trying to think if it was October. Someone knows, please let me know. Thank you. And what was the other thing that I wanted to point out? So then the only other thing would be is, let's say this picture came before, then this truck would have been probably most likely just been sitting there and had the hose out.
Yes. Yes. If this is the first picture prior to the family getting there, and this is the first thing, is then most certainly the truck wouldn't have been driven, and they've been dragging different lines out of the back of the truck. And so that's one argument but we, like I said, until someone answers which picture is actually first, we don't know that.
Yeah. Did Dylan's boots look like they had been laying out in the rainstorm? Yeah, we really don't know. We just know that there was blood, and that they're at the lab, and it is confirmed that it's blood. They've never said whose blood. I would probably go on a limb and say it was probably Dylan's blood, unfortunately, with how far along they are with it being a homicide, and now you've got a suspect. It sounds like
I'm hoping it's not Dylan's blood.
Yeah, obviously.
Yes.
But yeah, that's but it's I would believe that's probably if it is blood. So that was one more thing. Oh yeah, so the James Brenner's affidavit for his
Yes.
so you went over this, and
I was hoping. Yes, I was hoping it was going to be like the from another case, like the Ron Logan affidavit for the charges and for the search warrants, and most certainly the agent that wrote this was in a different class than the one that was in Ron Logan, because they released so much more information than that. This one here was very specific about that one firearm, not a lot of details other than he's convicted. We had a missing individual that he's most certainly possibly affiliated with, and not a lot of details or information in this one.
Yeah, so usually they kind of in these, especially like search warrants or arrest warrant, they kind of over embellish, and they, you're telling me that they'll kind of, obviously even the mother was talking about it, that and that was like the Chase Ventures one where they kind of really stretch the truth, because they could do that with these, which I didn't know that they could do that.
I mean, you have to swear to it, and I've seen officers do it so often, and there's no need for it to do that. And this agent here most certainly didn't do it. He stuck to his guns, and it just had probable cause, and that's all he did, and that's all we have to work with off of this one. I don't know what the other one looks like with the one that mentions homicide investigation. I haven't seen that yet.
So yeah, we're coming up on the half-hour mark. So if you guys have a question for Steve, put it in there, and we'll try to get a couple questions in. I can't guarantee everybody's, but we'll try to get a couple. So if you have a question for Steve, Renee asks, Steve, how long does it take for a blood analysis to come back?
Well, it depends on what they're doing on some of the DNA and stuff, or if they're just trying to identify certain characteristics about the blood. And I mean, there's all different kinds of tests that can be done. Presumptive test, is it human? Is it animal? And some of those tests are relatively easy. And it depends on how backlogged the lab is too. And what is the priority of this case? Because certain cases do carry a higher priority than others. And which lab is doing it? Is it the FBI lab, or is it a local state crime lab? And, like I said, it all depends on what the workloads are and what they're checking for. It could be anything quickly done within a month, and then some of this stuff may take, some of this newer DNA stuff, takes longer. And I don't know which one they're currently doing.
Sure. Rocky K9, thank you, Rocky, for everything you do. You're an amazing supporter. Rocky says, please ask Steve if it's true that most missing people are found within, I'm assuming, 1.5 miles radius from the house.
It wouldn't be surprising. I know that some of back in when we was doing some of our profiling courses and things, that there was a time limit that, as I spoke in the other video, that there was a 7 mile, 10-minute time limit that if you're transporting a body that for disposal, that is something else. Missing persons that are voluntarily missing, I would be saying, 1.5 miles. But on the homicide ones, it reached out there up to 7 miles is what the general rule used to be.
Yes. So just looking for a question. Caroline says, was there enough fuel in the fuel tank to make it worth stealing a large tank of gas? It's quite a few $100s at $5 a gallon. I totally agree there, Caroline, for sure. We don't know what was in the fuel tank. I'm sure the mother might have that answer, but gas is expensive and worth a lot. Raina says, Chris, thank you for having Steve on the show. It's been very informative. Yes, he's amazing. And we're gonna do more, of course, if willing. If Steve would like to do another show,
I'm at
dig
your
deeper into.
disposal.
Dig
Anything that we
deeper.
can do to help this case along, I most certainly is for.
Yeah, and this literally just came from watching basically two interviews, really, and mainly just the heavy D's, just breaking down every little bit of that what Mom said, because there was some interesting information that she kind of, obviously she's nervous, whatever, and she supposedly says, Grandma drove a truck, and it's really Dylan, and so some of that stuff it kind of went past me the first few times because it just didn't. It's like what, but now kind of going back and looking at that, and then with the whole tracks that have caught their attention. That's these little things here seem small, but if this is something that's caught their attention, could have something happened. And then, like I said, they were doing a grid search probably about this area here, and
Which is extremely odd. I mean, I just don't that there's most certainly something indicative in that. I mean, that's off the beaten. I know it's close proximity wise, but what would be there? It has to be some type of physical encounter or something there.
yeah. And my theory was kind of because obviously the Brenner case, he's got all these guns. So was it possible that he was getting shot at, and obviously he's running west, and then of course this is a bad view because it looks like there's nothing. It just looks flat, but we know that there's that mound, and was he running for his life, getting shot at, and made it to this dirt mound, maybe got hit unfortunately while he was didn't know it because it's adrenaline's going, gets behind cover, realizes he's been hit. Now unfortunately he's I hope not, but just speculating. And then now something happens, they and then they drag him. The boots come off for some reason.
Either that or they remove the boots for control.
Interesting. Yeah. And there has been, and that's something I haven't shared with you a lot, although because it's really just kind of big speculation that this militia group supposedly likes to have people take off their boots. That's something I'm kind of still looking into, but it's really kind of, just speculation, of course. Let me see if there's just a couple more questions here. Let's see. Would blood in the ground where the grid search was leave iron or something behind if the rain had washed, like a dog or some equipment would see a trail in that dirt? So she's basically asking, would the blood stay even if it rained? Would there be some kind of trace?
Actually, I just checked my notes on another case. Somebody was asking in a Tennessee case about tracking dogs last night, and I looked in my old notes, and some of these tracking dogs in ideal conditions, especially with humidity, really doesn't hurt. It actually helps tracking dogs, but they can track in the ideal conditions of cool and humid up to 2 weeks and locate things a certain sense. But there's different dogs that have different disciplines. You have cadaver dogs, you have dogs that work crime scenes that will alert on all different types of evidence. And, with a proper handler, a dog can do amazing things.
Yeah. Let's see. Could someone have put Dylan's truck on a trailer to hide where it went? I was thinking about that too. Put his truck on a trailer. Yeah, that'd be a lot of work, but it's possible. One of the other theories, and I'm gonna do a little more research. I really would love, if I get time, and this is kind of down the road a week or two, and if this case is still going on, what I would really like to check out. Let's see, do I get the screenshot? So I just kind of took a picture, or I didn't take a picture, but I just took a screenshot of the area. This is Lucin, And this is just kind of an example of tracks kind of being left behind and how deep, kind of different tracks, some that are faded, some that are recent. I would love to see how easy it would be or how hard it would be to cover up some tracks and then pour water on it and see if it would. The one thing I kind of noticed, and like I said, I'm no expert. I just noticed this is really smooth right here, almost like it's been smoothed down.
Every word but where that footprint is.
Yeah.
I mean,
it just seems really packed down, like almost like if there was a trail, or tracks, I should say, that they like covered it up to where the main intersection is, which would be like 6-10 feet away. And so it just looked like the truck's been sitting there. They pull in. They're like, well, what the hell? We left tracks when we left tracks when we came and left, but there's no tracks from, clearly we're looking at the back of the truck. We should be seeing what I just showed, which would be something along the lines of this. But so very interesting. But yeah, I kind of go back and forth for sure. Let me just look and see what we got. Let me check my phone if anybody donated there. Oh, thank you, Raina. And there was another person. Steve, just one more time for those that might be just coming in or missed the first part. You're going to be going out and doing some forensic testing. Do you want to explain that one more time?
Yes. One part of like I said, as I come back, I've been retired for a few years, but as I worked some of these cold cases, I've spoke with some family members of that they have certain things and that they've contacted me about and that they discovered over the years, and I've been trying to help them as much as I can. But I've also found out that there's a need for certain testing, sort of like what Adventures with a Purpose does, that they go out and they find these vehicles that's in water and locate victims. Well, you can do the same thing forensically on land with the processing some of the older evidence that law enforcement disregards now or won't take or won't test. That, if I can go out and test it, because there's a lot of presumptive tests out there you can do as far as for blood analysis. There's a lot of documents and actually fingerprints on paper and things can, even with time, they'll become more reactive to certain agents. And so I'm going to look at traveling around and see if I can help some of these families bring some type of closure to some of these cases, or at least give them some type of comfort that they've done everything they can to try to solve their family's, the loss of a family member.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. Oh, that'd be cool. I think that'd be huge. I don't know anybody, that's doing that. That would be huge.
Yeah. And of course, and we won't do it at, at no cost to families and stuff, and that's what we're going to try to do. We're going to, try to run everything just pretty much like what they do with the Adventures with a Purpose. That's no cost. And most certainly what they do is tremendous and has brought a great relief to a lot of families that lost loved ones that had no idea what happened to them. But with homicides or missing children, sometimes you often have an idea that it's not going to turn out well. And I just want to be able to offer some comfort to families.
I think that's amazing. So quickly, thank you, Raina, so much for the PayPal, and thank you, Pamela, for the other day. She sent some money as well. Thank you so much, guys. And if I forgot somebody, I think I got everybody. If I did, let me know. Thank you guys so much for the support. I couldn't do it without you. King Samoan says something interesting, because they had backhoes and stuff. You could back drag a backhoe bucket. to level it out. I think that's what he's trying to say.
Yes.
That's not bad. Be kind of hard to cover. I mean, I don't know. I've never driven a backhoe. I don't know what kind of tracks, but you could you could come out. Yeah, that's something I would love to look into. Great comment though. Thank you so much. You guys are amazing. Yeah, that's what can you back drag a front end loader to cover tracks? I think, yeah. That's something definitely like to look into, because it, in my opinion, it looks pretty. Go back to the picture. It looks kind of smooth, almost overly smooth. You know, who knows? But clearly, no tracks that the family was expecting. But,
well, the family would have visited him over time, and they know if this is his normal parking position, you know.
Yes, and that was another thing. Yeah, completely forgot how he normally parks. Does he park that close to the trailer all the time? Does he risk driving over a hose to park?
Yes.
You know, he's pretty close to that trailer. Is that his normal spot to park?
Yeah.
You know,
and the family, like I said, the family would know and could answer that question. It's just a matter of getting the question to them.
Yes. Yep. So one quick thing, guys, real quick, just for everybody. So I'm going to start a new schedule. We'll actually have a start as actual schedule. Excuse me. So I'm going to go for Monday, Thursday, and Fridays with the 7:30 start time, Eastern Standard Time, of course. Those are like the days that I'm going to definitely do is Monday, Thursday, and Friday. I will still do, probably shows, I'll do a Sunday every other week, or, a Tuesday. Obviously, Tuesdays are my paranormal days, and I will still do paranormal videos, and sometimes I might do a Tuesday paranormal live. It's been a while since I've done that. Last time we had a lot of fun when we did that. We kind of shared some stories. It's pretty fun. So that'll be kind of scheduled. So the Monday, Thursday, and Friday guaranteed lives, and then maybe a live, Sunday or even a Wednesday, depending on, if there's news or something. And then the only thing with the membership is the thank yous at the end. Of course, it's gotten so big, and I thank you guys so much for the support and all the memberships. It's amazing. Obviously, I could not be here without you guys. The only problem is having everybody's name. It's getting so hard, and it takes me so long, because the biggest problem is when somebody comes in, you would think the list would be like the latest people that joined. So I could just go to the list, each day and just get the last, the 4 people that joined, that day. But what happens is whenever somebody rejoins, they get kicked up at the top. And so you always got people rejoining all the time. And then you got new members. So I see names that are familiar in the list, and I think, oh, I'm caught up. But it's caused it just takes me too much time. So the only change is I'm just going to put the mob crew, tier 3 thank yous at the end. It'll be easier on me just because there's so many. Plus, having like 500 names, and I can't have it too long, I'm sure people can understand. And I wish I could have everybody's name up there, but it's just getting to the point where if I'm spending all this time doing that, I can't do my research and everything else. So hope everybody can understand that. And then the other thing is I'm going to get a new email, because I know there's probably half of you have probably emailed me and I've never even seen it because I don't know where they go. I honestly don't. I think it's same with you, True Crime, right? I had to email you. I don't know where my emails go. And the crazy thing, there's only been one person that, because I can tell once if I email you, I can tell if you actually emailed me, because then I just pull up the email, and then there's only been one time where there was somebody that I missed. All these other ones, I pull up the email and there's nobody. So it's like, I don't know where these emails are going. So, and yeah, So, and thank you to the mods, of course, the mods, Jennifer, Karen, Carper Horse. Who else is in here? Just all my mods, you're amazing. I don't want to leave out somebody. I like I said, the only thing I hate about, there's many things I hate about StreamYard is it doesn't have the mods like they're normally set up. They're not the same color. So, so yeah, I'm gonna get a new email. So hopefully that'll, because I'm sure there's probably people, like I said, that have emailed me and I've never seen it. So if you've emailed me and I've never returned your email, please, I most likely just never got it. I don't know where they go. So we'll definitely do a new one. Yeah, I know. See, that's the problem. Exactly, Raina. And I wish I could explain that more, but that's the problem with the thank yous at the end. So plus when you get like, I'm up to 500. If I got up to 1,000, all the names would have to be super small, and so I think everybody understands. So, and that's the only change. So yeah, and I got your email, so I'm going to email you, buddy. Like I said, I've been moving the last few days, so I haven't done any work. I just got done finished moving, so just getting caught up. So one more time, happy birthday to Dylan. Hopefully he gets justice soon. Thank you, Molly, for becoming a member. You're so awesome. Hopefully we're going to have some more people on, like Dove. Dove's been following this case, and I would love to have you on as well. So, yeah, anything else you'd like to share before we go, Steve?
No, just appreciate you having me, and let's hope and for the best for Dylan and his family, and everybody try to do things that can help this community grow and bring back, and see if we can't find Dylan and for his family.
Yes, agree. Everybody's sharing their happy birthdays. Yes, thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for the support. And one other thing is, I know people wanted to get back out there with the drone. Once Steve told me what he thinks, why he believes that they probably don't want people out there, and he couldn't share that in public. That really kind of, when he shared that with me, and obviously I can't share it, but that really is like, oh man, maybe we should kind of step back for a little bit. And I wish I could share that, but yeah, it makes sense what you told me, Steve. So that's kind of why we step back. But we would love to really, when we kind of get things back together and I get a car, we'd like to go help look for Aiden if he's still missing. So, so many emails. Not gonna get a hold of you. I think I get your emails. I just haven't emailed anybody back the last few days because I've been moving. So I apologize. I am only one person. I get tons of emails. I'm sorry, guys. I can only email, So one day I'm gonna have to hire some help or something. But so anyway, guys, Mike says thank you, Chris and Steve. Thank you so much, Steve. So anybody that's replaying this, the description and the link to Steve's channel is in the video description. Obviously, we've been putting it in the comments as well. We appreciate everybody showing up, and we'll be back here probably Thursday, maybe Wednesday. Like I said, Monday, Thursday, and Friday is the guaranteed days, and I still might show up, maybe a Sunday or Wednesday as well. So we'll just kind of see how things play out.
Yeah.
But so thank you guys so much. Steve, if you just want to hang out, I'm going to play the outro.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much, Steve.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Oh, got to cut him right there. I knew that was going to happen. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much. So we got the outro for the pets. Here we go. I love you guys so much. Have a wonderful Monday. We will see you guys tomorrow with Paranormal Tuesday.